Seeking refuge in a mundane life has been a part of men's modern life for centuries by now. Taking time off work to be with your family for Christmas, Easter or midsummer isn't a choice, but saving a few days per year for that little extra hobby of yours has always been cherished. The Great Moose Hunt, the Junior Hockey World Championship, the Super Bowl. There's something special about taking time off from work, family, friends, and just completely get immersed in your interest. For these past couple of years, a new reason to shut off the outside world for a few days or a week has emerged, and that is the recurring phenomenon of another fresh draft server. And this spring is no different. With no defined release date as of right now, astrologists debate if the release of Warmane Frostmourne Season 3, which plans we need to look to, and they need to align for the release to be finally announced. Going into Wrath fresh can be as exciting as a newcomer or a returning veteran. The veterans can also be here for different reasons, but I am making this video to give insight to the veterans wishing to pursue realm firsts in raiding. This needs to be said and echoed many times. Wrath is a simple game. If you have cleared the raids previously, you have the confidence and know you can do it again. So what's the difference between clearing raids the first time and being the first person to do it? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of realm first raiding on Progressive Wrath. Pre-launch. Before the server has launched, you or your group of friends need to establish a roster that could compete for realm firsts in tier 7. You should start off by DMing all guildies if they would be down to pursue this together with you. Don't look at public recruitment forums at this stage. People who recruit publicly is a big red flag for your goals. Whether the content will be Bliss-like or not does not matter at this stage. Your goal is to find 30 or around 35 motivated and experienced Wrath players that will take time off studying and work to play every day from launch until the raids release. A minimum requirement should be to play 6 to 10 hours a day from the day that the server launches. If you can't find 25-30 people that are able to do this time commitment, you'll just have to go with whatever you can find, but this should be a minimum goal. You now have a Discord with 30 plus people and all of you are hyped about a Wrath coming out on a said date. Now you need to plan what classes people should be playing. In order to compete, you all need to play decently well, but tier 7 is after all very easy. But there are some roles and classes that can carry and impact a realm first attempt more or less than other classes. Your strongest players should play the most influential classes, and here are the ones that can carry the raid the hardest, the main tank. You don't want an inexperienced or slow player here. The Holy Palace and the Discipline Priest. These three musketeers can hard carry healing done and be the make or break of your attempt. A hunter. A strong hunter in tier 7 makes trash so much easier, and also threat becomes a non-issue. Your number 1 warlock. One of your warlocks will be given tricks and PI, and this person should be a very strong player to be able to carry this responsibility. After this, everyone is equally important to your realm first raid day success. Having a backup plan. If your Discipline Priest disconnect on race day, what do? Here's an example of different ways you can think about trying to minimize damage control. If you do have a Holy Priest, he should be ready to switch to Discipline Priest. If you don't have a Holy Priest, you should be playing with 2 Shadows instead and have one of them be ready to go Discipline. What if your main tank gets sick and he can't come to raid, what do? My best advice here is to have your Ret Paladin be ready to main tank off tank in case of emergency, and have one of your Death Knights have a Ret alt to cover for this. What if one of your hunters have a stroke mid-raid and they can't continue? You should always have 2 hunters in a realm first roster to cover this. What if your biggest warlock can't carry and he's just playing bad or getting outperformed? You should pick warlock number 2, 3, 7. This class gets stacked ad infinitum, and the best person should be giving the most responsibility. Server launch. Leveling on Wrath is rarely the make or break of raiding realm first.
Mail or you what you view Eve.
On the contrary, most leveling realm first are very niche, and the players who achieve it might not be good raiders whatsoever. The best approach a guild can have to the leveling part is following: assign professions. You want to cover following professions before the tier 7 race even starts. You want to have a tailor who can make the Death Chill cloak after doing the Lore Master of Northrend. Enchanting, you want a couple of disenchanters in your heroic groups before tier 7 release, so you can get Abyss crystals, as these are very expensive and could potentially be very rare on low population servers before tier 7 even comes out. Alchemy, you want everyone to make a Death Knight alt, level it to level 65 and level Alchemy to max level and start discovering daily. Whoever discovers Potion of Wild Magic and or Speed Potion should go Potion Mastery and supply the guild. You should also encourage people to never sell these potions until other people on the server start discovering them. If your guild is the only guild that have access to these potions, that's a major advantage. The other professions are usually covered just by random guild members, but the ones I just mentioned are very important to assign. Your raiders now start to reach max level, and they're doing heroics to get their pre-bis gear. You want to do Sunwell Plateau every possible reset before tier 7 even comes out, due to some pre-bis items in there, but also because it's a great way to gear your fresh 80s to make heroics easier from the get-go. ASAP at 80, you want to have 20 people that can queue heroics, make a Sunwell Plateau raid. Use the Sunwell Plateau raid to test raid CD usage, add-ons and voice comms as if it was the race day. This might be your only chance to gather people before the actual raid race commences. Dealing with tilt. You and your guildies will cry about items not dropping. Crafting Darkmoon cards will cause people to go into therapy. Stress will build up. Tier 7 is now 4, 3, 2, 1 day away, and you still miss those 2 items to be fully pre-bis. Don't worry. Missing 1 or 2 items on a few characters will not decide the outcome of the race. This is not a reason to slack or not even try to get all of the items, but don't listen to your mind looking for reasons to give up. It's about performing on the day. The toxic winner mentality. In order to get realm first in raiding, you don't need to play well, you just need to be the first one to kill the last boss. You don't need to be good, you just need to be the best. Poaching key players from competing guilds, their priests, their tanks, their hunters, a few days before the launch of tier 7 will cause your opponents to crumble. If your enemies think the race is over before it even starts, you will have an easy W. Sadly, poaching competing guilds players, you will now need to bench your own loyal members, and this will in return cause negativity and drama if not handled properly. My best advice is to always say, our goal is to win, and be respectful to the teammates you crush under this dogma. A very powerful tool here is to bench a fellow officer or friend, to show the rest of the guild and your raiders that you value winning more than friendship. If you as a guild master, leadership, or member are willing to sacrifice a friend in order to win, the others will follow. Just make sure you're respectful in doing so and have a nice touch about it. We have finally arrived at launch day. Assuming you haven't done any PTR, and this is the first time your guild plays together, if you have done PTR before, then this following segment is kind of irrelevant. Below is assuming all the content is Bliss-like difficulty and all 3 raids release at the same day. Now, world buffs are generally not a thing in Wrath, but if Soul Garub buff is available, it's very good due to the movement speed buff. Alright, number 1. Start with Naxxramas. By starting in Naxxramas, you can reach Sapphiron, the Eye of Eternity key, and have the option to leave Kel to Sad if you are behind and try to get Eye of Eternity realm first instead. Obsidian Sanctum realm first is the lowest priority if your goal is to be a top guild and bragging rights. Upon entering Naxxramas, you want to have a plan. The best approach is to start with the easiest wings and do the hardest ones lastly, and in Naxxramas, this is the order in terms of tuning. Start in Military Wing. It's very easy and has good loot. Follow it up with Spider Wing. It's also an easy wing and is very fast. 3. Go for Abomination Wing, which has the most loot, but some of the bosses can be quite a gear check. 4. End it all with Plague Wing. Loatheb is the scariest boss pre-Sapphiron and he should be killed last. By doing WOTLK last, you can also get the Spore buff, enter Saffron's room and pull while your DPS still has the buff. 5. Saffron. Make the choice after killing Saffron if you wish to go next for KT or Eye of Eternity. Number 6. KT. End the race. So, where do you actually win or lose a race? I have won a couple of races, but I've also lost a lot of races. Start off with the raid comp. A lot of people seem to think that going 2 or 3 healers is necessary to DPS down mobs faster and therefore moving on to the next trash faster and winning the race faster, compared to going with maybe 4 or 5 healers. The difference between going 19 DPS or 20 DPS is minimal, but cutting 2 healers can make or break trash pulls and open yourself up to unnecessary death. My advice is that you play with a standard comp, but that your healers should be able to recognize when they should be DPSing instead of AFKing. Sometimes, maybe they should be using dual spec, and sometimes their globals should just be damage even if their talents are dedicated to healing. Downtime. The Paladin rushes in and starts building threat. Rogue should be using tricks on the tank and the bombs should be dragged towards the next boss. The Hunter meanwhile will send his pet to the next couple of packs and pull mobs towards you with misdirect. Your goal is to kill the last trash just in front of the boss when you're about to pull. Your casters do not need to stand still and blizzard or seed until you are by the boss. Let melee and Death Knights cleave the mobs while running, slow the mobs and keep kiting. Nuke the mobs, drink up and if necessary pull the boss. Repeat. Secondly, loot. Loot should be pre-assigned, or you could have an officer that will call out who presses need when an item drops. Use group loot. All members should have enchant scrolls and gems in their bags for every item slot going into a race. If a member gets an item, they pass on the next item if it is the same gear slot, as it would be a smaller upgrade than a fellow member getting it. Strategy. The strats you use in tier 7 that save time are minimal. There are a few bosses that reward riskier strats and a wipe is devastating. My advice is to do bosses the standard way, but let your healers number 4 and 5 have DPS off specs and pre-plan when they should be DPSing instead of healing on the easier fights. Try to avoid wiping. You need to know what the dangerous situations are. Where can you avoid wiping in tier 7?